Welcome back to the Talking Wolves podcast. I'm Dave Azapadi, and alongside me today we've got Mr. Jordan Russell. Jordan, how you keeping, man?
I'm all good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, all good. Just the two of us. It's a quiet one again. Apologies for last week for people listening as well. It was obviously bank holiday here in the UK. Jord, you were away. I'm not too sure what Matt and Finn were up to. So I got Ryan in fairly last minute, and it was a good pod. I enjoyed it with Ryan, and a lot of people enjoyed it as well. So I'm sure we'll get him back on in the future as well. But Jord, how was last weekend? I know you were at a wedding in Germany. I spoke a bit about it on the live stream, but how was it?
Yeah. No, great. I had a great time. So we're in Hamburg for 5 days. One of my friends has been living there now for 4 years or so. And he was getting married to his now wife, who's from Hamburg. So yeah, it was good. It was nice to see a different country, go to a different place I've never been before. And yeah, mate, it was great. Good weather, free bar on the whole day for the wedding. So yeah, naturally got very pissed up. And it was great. Yeah, no problems. And no, good time, and would thoroughly recommend going to Hamburg to anyone who hasn't been.
How were you? How were you when you were back? Drained, tired, or were you all right?
I wasn't too bad. So the wedding was on the Sunday, and we flew home on the Tuesday, and then Monday, me and Emma woke up and just stayed in the hotel room till about 5 o'clock. I ordered KFC on Uber Eats. That's the only literally it was like both hungover to shit. Like everyone else that had got our friends had gone out for the day. They were going to look at the Hamburg Stadium on our stadium tour of Hamburg, and I was just like, not coming, just no interest whatsoever. So we stayed in bed, ate some KFC, and then met them all for a couple of drinks and a bit of food on the night time. So it was good. It was we had a real good time.
No, good. And I mean, I was hoping we'd be back to some sort of normality after the international break, but I'm away the weekend of Newcastle, so it's going to be a mixed up lineup again. So I'm sure Matt and Jord, I'm sure you'll be about as well. So we'll get it sorted either way, but I won't be there. I'm actually in Amsterdam that weekend, so I've got on the Sunday. Originally, it was just to go and watch the darts. There's the darts. One of the tours are in Amsterdam that weekend. Originally, it was just the darts. We bought tickets to the semi-final, which was sort of mid-afternoon on the Sunday. Obviously, Wolves game got changed to sort of mid-afternoon on the Sunday as well. And then we got offered tickets. The friend who I'm going with works with a Dutch guy. We got offered tickets to Ajax. They're playing someone on the Sunday. We're in corporate. And then we're going, and then we've bought tickets for the darts finals instead. So basically, watching the Ajax game, as soon as we leave the stadium, we're just walking straight to the darts. I think it's pretty much opposite. So that's going to be a heavy evening. Just that Sunday afternoon is going to be extremely heavy. But hopefully, Jord, I'll deserve it because we've got the Content Creators Cup this weekend. It's a shame you're not part of it because you are a midfield maestro last year. So you're on you abroad again this weekend, yeah?
Yeah. So we're going golfing this weekend. I'm in Portugal for a few days. So it's something we do every year. So looking forward to it. Going and play some courses out there. So the content, the date of it last year was.
It was late, wasn't it? It was like October, November.
It was a lot later. Yeah, a lot later.
It was freezing. Remember, they left the door open. Yeah, it was absolutely freezing.
It was freezing cold. Yeah, and as soon as they said, "Oh, we're doing it in September," I just knew as soon as it was like we're going to try and do it in September. I was like, it's definitely going to be on golfing. So I'm gutted to be missing it. We had we had a good time last year. Obviously, lost in the final to a team that have been banned this year, basically of all ex-pros and stuff. So it would have been nice to see if we could go on and win it. But I think 12 months off, and then hopefully I'll be going for a third year, and come back and start doing my best impression of Carl Henry.
Yeah, no, hopefully next year it's for us to retain it because it's difficult this year because there's new teams in it. Pretty much most of our team last year aren't here. Obviously yourself, Ewan, who obviously we started the channel with, is a really good player. Can't come. Liam, who was a good player for us then. So there's a few of the lads that were with us last year, but it's a mixed up team. So it could go one of two ways. But I'm looking forward to it nonetheless. I went to the gym today, get a 30-minute run in, and I haven't sweated like that for a long, long time. So I'm hoping that I'll be up to fitness for Saturday. But like I said, we're going to miss you in the middle of the park, mate. But we'll look at the Forest game now, Jordan. It finished Nottingham Forest 1, Wolves 1. Finally getting our first point on the board for the new season. We'll start with the we will talk about transfers later on in the show, but we'll start with the lineup. Sam Johnstone coming straight in for Jose Sarr. Sarr completely out of the squad. That was a bit of a talking point on Friday. We spoke about it on our stream as well. But
Yeah.
Johnstone straight in for Jose Sarr. Andre on the bench as well, which I was surprised at. I didn't even know if he was registered in time, but obviously they got that done as soon as. But what did you make of that change, Jord? The Sarr completely out. The Saudi deadline is tonight, by the way, and there's not been any rumours, so going to be really surprised to see what happened, well, interested to see rather what happens with Jose Sarr.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I wasn't surprised Johnson started. I know Liam on our transfer deadline pod said he thought Bentley might start, but I just thought if Johnson's been registered and whatever, you're bringing him to be first choice. And he came in, and actually, you know what? I thought Johnson on the whole, had a very good game, and there's quite clearly improvements, if just purely from our distribution and how we wanted to play out from
Yeah.
the back. You could see that from the start. Much more comfortable on the ball than Jose Sarr at the ball with his feet. He was, spraying balls around, and it sort of gave us an extra dimension to start attacks. I'm a little bit shocked around Sarr, I guess, with no Saudi link so far. Like I say, we're recording this at lunchtime on Monday, so it could all, by the time this is out or by the time listening, it could have been sold, and this is a little bit outdated. But I thought someone in Saudi would have took him on, really, and I think it'll be interesting in a way of, if we don't sell him by the deadline, for the Saudi deadline, is he even in the squads? Like, and I know. Gary O'Neill said he's going to, he'll be competing with Johnson, and that's a competition he wants, and it's only good. But uh, for me, it's loud and clear. Jose Sarr has been our number one for many years, about 3 seasons now, maybe
Yeah.
3 or 4 seasons. Quite clearly, they don't fancy him. He's had a shaky start to this season, and Johnson's someone that has worked with Neil Cutler, isn't it? Who's our goalkeeper
Yeah.
coach at different clubs. Obviously, he rates him. And you could, like say, you could quite clearly see he's a lot more comfortable on the ball. So I just don't see how Jose Sarr gets back in this Wolves team, if I'm honest with you. So it'll be interesting to see if he's going to be in and around the matchday squads. Like I say, I still think he'll possibly go, but time will tell.
Yeah, I think he'll be in and around the squads if he stays. Obviously, it more than likely be on the bench, and I'm sure they'll have a move set up for January if for whatever reason he runs out of time. I'm surprised his move got pushed through so quickly though, Jordan, because I think on this time last week, obviously we weren't on the pod last week, but it was the
No.
bank holiday. It was still very, very quiet, so we didn't really have much of a discussion. And sort of from Tuesday onwards, it accelerated the Sam Johnston thing. So I'm surprised that Wolves have pushed this through so quickly, probably without having a replacement club lined up for Jose, really. And look, I know he's got people that don't really like him as a player, but Jose Sarr is certainly too good to be sat on a bench at a Premier League club, though, Jordan. I think he should be playing football, certainly.
Yeah, he's good enough to play football. I just think for what we want to do, for what we want to do. He can't do it. I think we've seen it. He's not good. His distribution is pretty poor. And I said it. I was talking about it over the weekend. Like you could just tell, like with Sam Johnson back there, that it seemed to be a lot calmer in front of him. Like if I was a centre half playing in front of Jose Sarr, he'd give me kittens because I wouldn't know if he's coming, going, if if he's going to stay on his
Playing
line, if he's
short,
going to come
yeah.
out, and you just don't know what's going on behind you, and that's what you need, a bit of assurance. And you could tell we were a lot more comfortable than what we have been in the previous 2 league games, and that might be due to Craig Dawson coming in as well. I know we'll talk about that in a second, but yeah, it was a change for me that needed to happen. Was I over enamoured that it's Sam Johnson? Not particularly, but he had a solid game, and I think he'll do a job for us. And if it was 10 million for Sam Johnson or 25 million for Ramsdale, I'd rather pay 10 million for Sam Johnson because I don't think Ramsdale is worth anywhere near that amount of money. So yeah, look, it was a promising debut, and I think there'll be a lot more to come from him for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we talk about the lineup as well. There's some big changes. We saw Dawson come back in. It looked like on paper it may have been a back five, George, because Aït-Nouri had kept his place and Dawson had come in as well. But it was actually pretty much a back four and Aït-Nouri playing further forward. And we saw the first chance of the game, probably one of the biggest chances of the game, to be honest, fell for Aït-Nouri. A great pass through from Cunha. I don't know you messaged about this, but I probably agree with you. Aït-Nouri's got to be putting that into the back of the net, or at least testing the goalkeeper a
Yeah.
little bit more. Just just like he tried to be a little bit too clever with it and slot it through the keeper's legs, but there just wasn't enough power on it, so it allowed Sells to get a bit more onto the ball than what Aït-Nouri would have wanted him to.
Oh, for sure, yeah. You've got to be taking those chances. It's you don't get many opportunities in the Premier League, and it was a gilt edge for me. It was a lovely ball by Cunha. Nico Williams was caught completely square, and Aït-Nouri's just gone through 1-on-1. And I know there's the comparisons of, well, it could almost become like a Gareth Bale regen. If he's going to become a Gareth Bale regen, he's got to start putting the ball in the back of the net more, because Gareth Bale, yeah, I mean, the comparison stops there. When it comes to actually goal scoring ability, like, there's just no comparison, right? And I'm glad to see him further up the pitch. It sort of then leads me a little bit to, there's question marks then, because then you've got Sarabia still around, you've got Rodrigo Gomez, we've now got Carlos Forbes, Hwang was on the bench as well. Like, it's like, well, if Aït he's going to be one of those further forward players, did you need to bring in Carlos Forbes? Because then you
Yeah.
almost feel like we've got too many for too many positions again. But yeah, he's got to be taking it. And yeah, I think if Aït is to be a mainstay in this team, which I think he will be, right? I think he's a very good player, and I'll pick him to be our player of the season. If he's going to play further forward up the pitch, he's going to have to start his final distribution and his final action on some of these players. He needs to be more clinical with what he's doing, for sure.
Yeah, that's the one thing that lets him down, I think, Ryan. And we saw it. He played further forward against Burnley is the one example I've used a number of times before last year, and he does all the hard work. Even Burnley in the cup, he had a great chance. I think it was at 0-0. He took on about 3 or 4 players, and to be honest, to be fair to the Burnley keeper, it was a great save. But he's through on goal, and you've got to be putting the ball into the back of the net, and we've seen it. That's just the one thing that is letting Ryan down a little bit now. But you are right. There's a lot of players fighting now amongst those positions. It leaves us a little bit light at left back if that's the position that Gary wants him to play. But certainly, I think the reintroduction of Craig Dawson, which I'm sure we'll touch on shortly, was a big boost for Wolves as well, Jord. But let's talk about the opening goal for Forest, because it's 2 games now where Wolves have conceded 2 from 2 set pieces. Wolves brought in a set piece coach in the summer. Look, I'm not saying that everything's going to be fixed overnight and you're going to be scoring from a corner or a free kick every game and you're never going to concede off a corner or free kick, because that's not going to happen. But surely the bare basics of when you're playing Nottingham Forest is mark Chris Wood and don't let him out of your sight on any set pieces. And for some reason, Wolves let him free. And I felt at the time maybe Johnston could have done a tad better, but I think he was blindsided by one of the defenders or attackers in front of him. But that's just basics, isn't it, Jord? Chris Wood, probably one of the most threatening players aerially in the Premier League.
Well, yeah, he's 6'4", and I've met him in person a few times. He's a brick shithouse. So yeah, he's a big guy. You can't really let him get on his own in the box. And yeah, look, it's disappointing. Like I say, you get a set piece coaching, and I know people all of a sudden were like, I saw a lot on social media, I don't like zonal marking, and we should go man to man. I'm actually a big fan of zonal marking, but you've got to execute it, and I think it's more so just getting used to the fact of going to zonal marking that's just causes a few teething problems. Now, do you want teething problems when you're actually in the season? No. It could have been ironed out in pre-season, but there's obviously will naturally be a few teething problems. I think zonal marking is really good, where you effectively let your best headers of the ball go and attack the ball, so you have other
Yeah.
people marking zones. But yeah, it was so easy. Chris Wood sort of peeled off the back, and I still think Sam Johnson could have done better with their goal, and I think he'll be disappointed with it. He certainly made up for it more, in the latter parts of the stages of the game where he made some big
Yeah.
saves, pivotal saves, and again, like, his distribution. I thought he had a very good game, but he'll be disappointed with that. And it's just sod's law, and Chris Wood seems to like scoring against Wolves, and that's just the way it is. Like, sometimes it happens with these, certain players like scoring goals, and it's almost inevitable every time we play Chris Wood. I was going to say Forest, but like Chris Wood, that he'll score a goal against us. So yeah, it wasn't the best of goals we've conceded, let's be honest. But yeah, I think it's just teething problems. I think stick with the zonal marking will be fine.
Yeah, fingers crossed. There were a couple of questions about that. People asking about the set piece coach, but like I said, it's something that's not fixed overnight. It's something you do have to work on. Hopefully, a big international break coming up, Wolves can work on that. But we couldn't really reply much better, Jord. I think that it was crucial that we got ourselves back in the game sooner rather than later, because as we know under Nuno, if Forest held that lead for a while, it could have been a long, long afternoon for Wolves. But yeah, we got ourselves straight back in the game. Jean-Luc Bellegarde, 12th minute. And for a team that didn't score a single Premier League goal outside of the box last season, Jord, I mean, this is a hell of a strike, and we picked that one out. And it's what we want a little bit more from Bellegarde as well. We did obviously stop-start season last year with injuries, but certainly got the quality. And yeah, picked that one out. Great strike.
Yeah, and it was it's one of those things I always think with Forest. Been there a few times. The crowd, it's a loud stadium. Anyone that's been
Yeah,
there,
agreed.
especially when they're behind the team, it can really influence a game. And to be able to shut them up that quickly was massive, really. And yeah, it's a bit of a snapshot from Bellegarde. Sat up lovely for him, but top bins, um, really well executed finish. And I think it was vital we did that. Just shut the crowd back up straight away. And yeah, it was just a good strike and one that, for me, I think Bellegarde, like I say, start last season, glimpses last year of a very, very good footballer. I think still not sure that's his best position, really, out wide. I don't think he's got blistering pace. I think he's very good on the ball. He can drive and carry a ball, but I think he's better off centrally. But again, you've got loads of competition for places now, so he's going to have to play wherever he can play. But yeah, look, good goal. Hopefully that gives him a bit of a confidence boost. And yeah, hopefully he can carry on his scoring form because
Yeah.
he ain't got many for us really
Yeah, he
since he's
scored a
arrived.
couple last year, but I mean this is, I think you look only 3 shots on target on Saturday. It was a little bit of a frustrating performance, I think, in terms of us going forward. Certainly the game was close, and probably if I had to say a result, I think a draw was probably fair. I think maybe Forest just edged it with the chances they had in the second half and their dominance in the second half, but there were too many. I don't know. We lost the possession a little bit too much, Jordy. It was like a basketball match at the time, especially in the first half. It's just like no team could really get control of the match. Forest had started off okay this season, to be honest. I mean, you look at their results, albeit against much weaker opposition. We've played Arsenal and Chelsea. I think they've played Southampton and Bournemouth or something like that. So, a little bit less pressure on them, but still, like the likes of Strand Larson, Jord throughout the 90 just struggled to get into it. And again, I don't think that's all down to Jurgen. I think it's down to the way we played, because I think you could look at it. The Arsenal game, he struggled a little bit. Chelsea game, he showed a little bit more what he was about. But again, on Saturday, just struggled to get the ball up to him, didn't we?
Yeah, and I think it's one of those. I think people are saying that Cunha had a good game as well. And I think Cunha had good moments in the game, but it felt a bit disjointed. We didn't feel that connected really from the back to the front at times. And for Strand Larson on Saturday, pumping balls up to him where he's got like big guy like Murillo and Milenkovic as well, the big imposing centre halves. And I actually think he did well in the first half. He won a few free kicks, bought some free kicks, got us up the pitch a little bit. Um, yeah, like I think it'll come with him. I do think it'll come with him. I've definitely seen enough so far that keeps me. I'm not writing him off, and nor would I anytime soon. But I think fans will start to write him off if he didn't, probably score 3 or 4 in the next 5, 6, 7 games. That's just how fickle fans are at times. But no, I think it's all round play. It'll come. It's just I don't think we've got the balance right in the team still yet, and I think that's clear to see that still we're working on it, which probably isn't again ideal, but we are where we are.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly. It's well, you've got the international break coming up, and obviously that's sometimes a good chance to work on these things. But typically, Wolves now, as obviously with us being an established Premier League team, all those players that you probably want to work with are on international duty. I think Strand Larson's away. The couple of the new boys, Andre, João Gomez, Forbes, they're all away on international duty as well. So there's a large part of them away. But hopefully, Gary knows that, I think it's just in that final third. Look, in the preseason, we did okay. Chelsea in the first half, definitely we did okay. But it's just trying to find that balance. And I think that's up to Gary. And he's mentioned it a couple of times in post-match press conferences. I think the Chelsea game and the Burnley game in the Cup, which we sort of haven't touched on too much. But he basically said, I think he knows he's going to have to change the style of play to suit either the players that we've got or the players that we were and have brought in, Jord. I mean, Andre, who I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit, came off the bench as well. The game hadn't really gone anywhere after he'd come on. He certainly looks a very decent player, and I'm excited to see more of him because of how highly rated he was in Brazil. But can you see a world or a team where Andre Lemina and João Gomez all play?
Um, I think there's a good chance it will happen because probably all three of them are probably too good to leave out, really, for a club like us. I mentioned it on the live the live we did on the transfer deadline. I'm struggling to. What worries me is the balance. And I think when you're playing the bigger teams home and away, and you're playing, even some games away, you can probably get away with playing those three in midfield. I think they're very similar profile of players. It's going to be the games where you're at home and you're expected to go and dominate the ball and try and win. Try and be on the front foot and be aggressive. That I don't think you can play all three of them, and it'll be interesting to see how the balance works out because Lamina's Lamina's your captain, right? And he certainly had a good second half at Forest. Again, I thought he was a bit off it first half, but second half, though, he definitely had a good second half. Andre, well touted, and Joe Gomez is Joe Gomez. And another thing for me in all this conundrum as well is like Tommy Doyle. I thought Tommy Doyle, come on, and he played well. He's definitely our best midfielder on the ball, I think, and he definitely gets us to play more. And it's a bit of a conundrum again, the balance of the team. Like, which three play or which two of the four play. It's good to say that we've got a lot of options and good options as well. We've got a bit of depth there, but it's a bit of a headache really to be able to try and shoehorn them in, and that's where we can't do that. We've just got to pick our best 11 and not play people out of position or ask them to do different things that they don't want to do. It's actually what's our best 11 and how can we utilise that best.
I think it's a good signing for Wolves, certainly. I think in terms of the quality of the player that you got and the fee that you've paid, certainly sounds like it's good business. It didn't seem like a priority for Wolves when you looked at the team. I think the centre-back was obviously an area that Wolves were focusing on. So it does make me feel that although Wolves were apparently looking at a centre-back, it didn't happen in the end on deadline day. I do feel that maybe this signing is to help shore us up a little bit more defensively. I think it certainly happened with Dawson, who, again, we'll have a little bit of a discussion on in a second. But I am intrigued to see how Gary sets us up because as good as Lemina, João Gomez and Andre all are, they're all fairly defensive-minded. It's difficult to see unless you're playing the likes of your top four or top six, how all three of them play. And I'd be intrigued unless you're giving Lemina a bit more of a free role to push forward a little bit more, which we know he's capable of. He popped up with some good goals last year as well. But I thought, like you mentioned, second half he was phenomenal. I saw a stat, I think it's the most tackle. As of Saturday evening, he had the most tackles out of anyone across in the English leagues on Saturday. I think the most in a single game since Johnny against Palace about 5 years ago. So it shows how dominant he was on Saturday. But another player dominant, Jord, and got a lot of people's votes for man of the match was Craig Dawson. There was calls to change the back line. I think Dawson and Bueno both played against Burnley. And although it was a poor performance for Burnley, they both looked solid. And after conceding 6, I think Gary O'Neill had to change something. Dawson came in and, looked fantastic, George, to be honest.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of him, and I just think he's definitely our best defender. He's by far our best defender, and I've mentioned it a few times where, again, not to get it clipped in any way, but I think he's world class in terms of in both boxes, sniffing out danger. He's like a magnet to the ball. He's a threat both areas, both set pieces in both areas. He's a magnet to the ball, and some of those blocks and last ditch, putting his body on the line on Saturday. Some of the blocks, excellent. I still think there's obviously going to be question marks whether you can play him in a 4 against a more mobile striker than Chris Wood. But then you say that, Forest have got Elanga, they've got Hudson-Odoi, they've got that pace in that team still, and he more than stepped up to that task. And I think with Mosquera and Semedo in that back line alongside him, and Totti as well, who's no slouch as well, you could probably get away with playing him there. So yeah, he was excellent. He was excellent, and I just think we've got to manage expectations with him, manage his minutes because obviously he's getting on a little bit. But unbelievable performance, and he's almost the first name on the sheet now for me at the back. It's got to be.
Yeah, definitely. It was a solid, really good performance from Craig Dawson. Like I said, him or Lemina, maybe with my vote for man of the match. I think Lemina in that second half was brilliant, but. I would be intrigued. I'd like people to let us know as well in regards to that setup defensively because Totti at left back, still, I thought he was okay, to be honest. I think, a lot of people in a back four prefer Totti as left back. It was what Lopetegui really pushed because he wasn't really a fan of Aït-Nouri, was he, Lopetegui?
No.
And he did okay, but I don't know. I am intrigued to see going forward how he sets up defensively. It's certainly a situation that I'm glad Gary has to deal with and not me, because I think he's got so many talented players at his disposal now. It's up to him to get the best out of them and set them up in the right way. But 1-1 draw, Jord, point on the board. We'll move on now to the game, our first game after the international break. And like I said earlier, it's against Newcastle United, Sunday afternoon game. I was just going to check how they'd started off this season, to be completely honest. I was having a quick look now at the Premier League table. So they've started off unbeaten, 2 wins and 1 draw out of their first 3 games. I know most recently they beat Tottenham Hotspur in the league. Opening day, they won with 10 men. So Jord, they're a team full of talent. The games against Newcastle I always look at, and I always think they're very close between the two teams. I think always at Molineux, we give them a really good game. I think we've drawn the last 2 seasons off the top of my head. Last year was when they got a very dubious penalty. Pedro Neto had pulled up as well, if you remember, in the second half. But that was a really good game. We had some really good momentum at that point. The year before, I think, was when Hwang squared it across his own box for us and some Maximin. So and that game, I felt we looked all right as well. But always been very close games, but certainly a team with a lot of quality, Jord. What are you thinking ahead of this game? Because it's going to be a tough game, but back at Molineux, Wolves really need to get something on the board in this game again before they get let behind too much. So another point, 3 points. What are you thinking?
Tough game. I think they're a very good side. I don't think it's the worst time to play. Well, I don't think it's the worst time to play them. They're still not at full strength as such, but I mean, watching them a couple of years ago at Molineux, it was the size of them. Like they've got athletes all over the pitch. They're big. They're imposing. And they're a very good team. I'm not a massive fan of Eddie Howe or Jason Tyndall, but they've got a good little thing going there. And I thought they've done some smart recruitment over the summer as well with some of the frees they brought in. They brought Lloyd Kelly in. I think is a very solid, capable, left-sided defender. And Tonali's back as well, which I watched him in the week against Forest in the Carabao Cup. He looked a good player, and you think he didn't play last season because of his ban, but 50-60 million pounds worth of talent that they haven't seen yet, and he's going to be ready to prove a point. And I just think Bruno Guimaraes, good player, Joelinton, imposing midfield. Like it's always a difficult game, and Isaac Gore. I do really like them as a team, and I picked them to come in the top 4 actually this year. So yeah, look, it'll be difficult. Got to back yourselves at Molineux at home, 4:30 on a Sunday. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those games where you say, you know what, I'll take a point before, when you look at the fixtures, you go, you know what, I think a point's not a bad point. But the fact we haven't won a game yet this season, there's obviously a reason for that. It probably puts a bit more pressure on us to actually try and get 3 points and get the monkey off our back as quick as we can, really. But yeah, no, I'm expecting a real hard-fought game. And yeah, I would take a 1-1 draw now if you offered it me, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at our fixtures as well. After that, obviously, we've got Brighton in the Cup a couple of days after, although that might get pushed. Well, I'd assume that'll be the Wednesday if we're playing Newcastle on the Sunday.
Yeah.
But Villa away, Liverpool at home, Brentford away, City at home. The next fixtures, the Brentford game away, you'd maybe hope to grab something, but Villa away, Liverpool at home, then you got the City at home. It's a tough run of fixtures, but if Gary can sort of keep it almost feels like deja vu. It almost feels like I had this conversation this time last year, because you remember our running was so difficult, and
Yeah,
it
it
took
was.
maybe 4 or 5 games. I think it was the EFL game against Ipswich, which really gave us a kick up the backside when we lost that game. But if we can get to November with our heads above the water, you look at our running in November, then Palace at home, Southampton at home, Fulham away, Bournemouth at home, Everton away, up until Christmas, really. I'm looking at it. You play Leicester just before Christmas, Ipswich the week of Christmas as well. You're thinking, if we can sort of be in and around that 16th, 17th, I know it doesn't sound great at the moment, but getting to November, you could certainly shoot up the table very, very quickly. So that's why games like this are difficult, because you could get to November and we're rock bottom with 2 points still, and that's when there's a lot of pressure on Gary O'Neill. Then you want to be getting into November with a little bit of momentum, not a huge amount of pressure, and then just kick on, don't you?
Yeah.
But there have been some question marks over him. Do you think that we need context for these? I think it's 2 wins in 15 or 1 win in 15 now for Gary O'Neill. That's spreading back to last year when he had a depleted squad. You look at some of the fixtures that we've played, Arsenal a couple of times, City, Liverpool. Do you think it's unfair to be judging him, or are fans right to be throwing a few question marks out at him at the moment?
I mean, potentially, yeah, but it's like I say, there's a lot. Most definitely for last season, there's a lot of rationale behind what happened, right, and
Yeah,
why. And I think that's more so on the ownership of the football club than Gary O'Neill himself. However, there's been times where I would say, he's still a relatively young manager. In that spell, there's been games where he thinks tactically he's been a bit naive and got it wrong. I think he's got some decisions wrong as well. So I think, look, you've got to look at it on face value. I'd just write off last season, the back end of last season, because like too many injuries, didn't get back to in the January. Yeah, it just wasn't good. But I think really, I know we've sold Neto and Kilman, and we would have ideally wanted to get another centre half in. The squad, like I said on the live, this squad for me now is the best squad of players as a group since winning the Premier League. That includes Nuno's time. Again, not saying it's the best 11 we've had, but certainly the best squad. You look to the bench on Saturday and you go, God, we've got options here and multiple
for
options, and
sure.
it was good. So, look, I think realistically, you've got to judge him on this season. And how it goes. I'd write off last season, at the back end of last season for sure. But naturally, football's all about winning games. Don't matter who you're playing, or the table doesn't lie ultimately. And if you're looking at starting at start of November, we've got 2-3 points and we're 20th. People won't say, "Oh, well, they played Arsenal, played City, played Liverpool, played
Yeah,
Villa, played all these teams." It'll be shit. Wolves have got 2 points here. If Gary O'Neill, if they haven't even won a game this season, the narrative will just get flipped on. He's under massive pressure, and again, I just don't think Foden will pull the trigger anyway. I think Foden are happy if we come 17th every season. Honestly, I think Gary O'Neill could not win a game until November, and his job would still be okay. They're not gonna get rid of him. They're just giving him a deal till 2028. It's
yeah.
not gonna happen.
Yeah, it depends on type of performances, I suppose, as well. I mean, you can't be putting up too many more of them Chelsea type performances. Any more time. They put up the price for season tickets at Molineux. We can't be rocking up. For argument's sake, when we host Liverpool and host City over the next month or so, we can't be shipping 4, 5, 6 goals to them because it could get nasty. Then, regardless of the talent that those teams do have, but. Certainly, like I said, I think maybe we're looking into it a bit much. I think Newcastle, as good as they are, I think we could certainly get something out of that. Villa away, still a tough place to go, but before last season, had half decent form there. Liverpool, we have upset at Molineux before. Brentford away, you would expect to maybe get points out of. So, look, Wolves are good enough, regardless of whether you're glass half full, glass half empty. I think Wolves are good enough. They've got a very good squad, like you said, Jord. Certainly got the quality to hurt these teams. And in my opinion, and it could come back to bite me, certainly too good to be in and amongst the relegation battle in the Premier League. So we'll wait and see. But we've got a quick talk on the transfers. We had transfer deadline day. If you managed to catch our deadline day stream, I really do appreciate it. If you want to listen to, I can't remember how long we were live for, 2.5 hours,
2.5 hours, yeah.
Of us talking about deadline day. It is available to listen to back on the YouTube or as a podcast form on Apple and Spotify as well. But Wolves managed to get 3 signings through the door. Jord, Sam Johnston, and Andre, who we've already spoken about, Carlos Forbes as well. What are you rating this window? We said this on the stream and we had a lot of 7s. Probably about fair. A few people saying 7. It could have been an 8 or 9 if we got the centre half in. What are your thoughts on the window?
Yeah, I think 7's fair, right? I think if we'd have got a centre half in, it would have been higher.
Yeah.
I think the disappointment is obviously losing someone like Neto. Although we knew it was coming, it had to happen, and for the money, yeah, you couldn't turn it down. Kilman, I think West Ham would give us about 20 million quid too much, to be honest with you, if not more. So that was good in that sort of sense. And I think we've bought relatively well. Look, definitely got some talent in there. I think Pedro Lima's one definitely for the future. I think we've got an absolute gem there. Andre, it's good that we've bought him, but again, I want to see a little bit more of him. I can't profess to have watched a lot of him. And Strand Larsen's looked like, like I said, I've seen promising signs out of him. So it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. I think you can always look at transfer windows very sort of subjectively and go, well, if we'd have got this player in, it'd have been a 9, or this one, or we didn't lose this player. It was good. It was decent. I think no doubt come to January, we're going to be wanting a couple more players. So
Yeah.
let's just see how it goes. It's definitely a 7 for me. And yeah, I think Fosun will need to put their money where their mouth is again in January for us to continue with whatever aspirations they've got as a football club. And I think it'll be interesting this time when it comes to January, if we're, in and around the similar positions we were this time, well, last season when it comes to that January transfer window, he needs to back him this year. If you've got any sort of inkling or any sort of indication, you could sneak 7th, 8th, or whatever, you've got to give him the tools to try and do it because last year they really let him down.
Yeah, I hope so as well. I think, look on paper, I think Wolves fans will know that there is money there to be spent if needs be. And I just hope that Fosun have learned from, if you disregard that Lopetegui season, because they had to splash the money, but under Bruno Lage, even under Gary last year, we're a couple of signings away from pushing on to doing something else. In Gary's case, probably wasn't necessarily going to be European football, but certainly knocking on the door for a proper FA Cup run. I think we would have beaten Coventry. We've had this conversation many times.
Yeah.
And under Bruno Lage, he had some serious momentum, and I think we've 1 or 2 more quality additions that season. So I think they know. I think Fosun have got to know now, but I'm just looking at the transfers now, Jord. If you ignoring Sam Johnston, every single signing is under the age of 24. Strand Larsen's the only one who's 24. But Andre is at 23, Rodrigo Gomez 20, Pedro Lima 18, Tommy Doyle 22, Bastien Moypieu 18, Carlos Forbes 20. A lot of young quality talent there. Obviously with the eye to sell on value and so on, which we know. And I suppose there will be some people frustrated that Wolves have got this thing at the moment where we're almost a stepping stone for players. But for us to generate money as a football club and take that next step, I think you have got to go through that sort of phase. Quickly touching on the Carlos Forbes deal, I think Wolves have done very well out of this, Jord. I think, like we mentioned on the transfer show a number of times, Ajax wanted 20 to 25 million for him just a couple of weeks ago. Wolves have now managed to get him on loan with an option / obligation to buy depending on these appearances made. And it'll work out about 15 million euros. So not exactly lit it up over in the Netherlands, to be honest, but certainly was a top talent in the 21 system at Man City, Jord. Very quick, direct player. Is that what Wolves are missing? We spoke earlier about just missing something going forward. Obviously, that's what Pedro Neto gave us. Do you think that's what Wolves need?
Yeah, potentially he's got raw pace, hasn't he? And he for Man City, I forgot how many goal contributions it was now the season before he left. It was ridiculous for
Yeah.
that level. It was unbelievably ridiculous. And it might be the missing piece of the jigsaw a little bit to help us. And when you're losing someone of Neto's ilk with that searing pace, and again, it'll be unfair to say Forbes is going to come in and beat Pedro Neto. But if
Yeah.
he can be 80% of Pedro Neto and not get injured, that's already that's already an improvement on Pedro Neto for me, because Neto, as great as he was, would play 15, 20 games a season and something of his hamstrings would pop, or he's been unfortunate with injuries as well. So if we can keep him fit and whether, look, a fairly low risk deal for me. Another one where I just don't think you're going to lose money on him. Even when we buy him, or say when we buy him, because the obligation's pretty much favoured in that we will end up buying him. You'll get your 15 million quid or 15 million euro back for him, no problem. Just because of his age and his profile of player and where he's come from, the Man City academy, you'll get that money back in, no problem at all, even if he doesn't have a great time at Wolves.
Yeah, he had 39 goal contributions in 38 games for Man City under 21s. That's 26 goals and 13 assists across his time there. For the under 18s, it's 47 goal contributions in 34 games for the under 18s as well. Ajax slowed down a little bit. His minutes obviously not as often, but at Ajax last year he got 3 goals and 5 assists in 38 games. I'm hoping that he's a success, Jord. Obviously, it's going to take time. He's still a young lad at 20 years of age. But even for the 21s, he would have been 18 getting those numbers, wouldn't he? So that's just
it's
just
mental.
ridiculous. So fingers crossed. I know Wolves had an eye on him whilst he was at City. I'd assume City would have had a buyback clause from Ajax, which I assume will go now. So Wolves will be, back to that a little bit more. But homegrown player, as and when he joins Wolves. So exciting. Probably most excited to see him out of the players. I know Andre's a top footballer, but Carlos Forbes is something about him. I'm quite intrigued to see how he gets on in the Premier League as well. But Jord, we'll jump onto the questions now. Thank you to everyone who shot some questions across to us over on Twitter. Lots as usual. Pav, there's usual talk of free agent signings post-window. Who would you take to bolster the defence? I'd take a serious look at Alex Tellez. I think he's just been released in Saudi Arabia, by the way. If he's interested on a 12-month deal. Same with Joel Matip. Do you think Wolves would explore this market, as we've only dealt with Diego Costa in recent memory? Yeah, again, this is a little... we had a conversation about this on the stream on Friday. Costa was the one. I think Wolves were in a desperate need for a striker. At the time, I think after Sasha got injured, wasn't it, and didn't really have anybody else. I'm not sure, George, because look, Tellez and Joel Matip, undoubtedly, quality players. I think out of the two, maybe Tellez is the most likely, but ultimately both of them would want big wages, probably want to be playing European football. I don't know. I don't think necessarily there's a deal. I think if Wolves wanted someone out of this free agent market, they probably would have already gone for them.
Yeah, I'd say so. And I think for me, the one that interests me more would be Joel Matip, because I think he's a very, very good footballer, very good defender, but he's just so injury prone. That's the problem. And I think he used to be back in the day, didn't it? And I'm saying like I'm being a fucking Yadar, but I'm not. It's like you used to be able to get these like pay as you play deals in, right? And that people would sign those contracts. Now people just want upfront money, guaranteed money. And it's like someone like Joel Matip, he's going to want, well, the free agents are going to want 100 grand a week, aren't they? Because there's no way, they're going to want 100 grand a week. Are we in a position as a club to go, you know what, we'll give you a 12-month deal, 100 grand a week? And again, these players aren't stupid. They will want multiple year contracts as well, because they want to protect themselves as well. Sure. And they've got every right to do that. So maybe if there's common ground and people start getting desperate, you might be able to get someone in on a 12-month deal just to keep them ticking over and all that sort of stuff. But again, I feel like with a lot of these free agents, and you're looking at the list, it's, do they want to come and play for Wolverhampton Wanderers ultimately? Like some of these players have been playing at the top level, won European medals, multiple caps for internationally. What is your desire to come and play football for Wolverhampton Wanderers? Do you want to be here, and do you believe in the project? Because if you don't really believe in the project and you don't really want to be here, we probably don't want to give you 100 grand a week. So it's just, you know what I mean? It's got to be a common ground there, and that's always the difficulty when it comes to free agency. And like I say, the reason for Diego Costa was we were in dire needs for someone at that point, and we probably gave him a lot more money than probably what we should have given him. Especially, I liked having Diego Costa here, but
look, in hindsight, it was crap, wasn't he? Yeah, it was crap.
Yeah, it was more so the nostalgia than the
of course,
pitch, wasn't it?
I was thinking that the other day. I was like, I should have got a Wolves Diego Costa shirt, because that would have looked the business, to be fair. And even like 10 years, you're like, oh my god, yeah. But in hindsight, he was
crap,
not. He was not good. But yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, Tellez has only just become a free agent as of today. Might be something obviously with the Portuguese Brazilian, link maybe, but I don't know. I can't see it happening. I think we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see, but I can't see it happening. Music Show, friend of the pod. If you were a professional footballer and you scored against Wolves, even if you had never played for them, would you celebrate? I think it's an interesting question, because I think when you're an actual footballer, whether you support someone or not, your allegiance is to the team that you're playing for and the club that are paying you money. So I think I would. If I scored a Molyneux, for argument's sake, you'd have a good idea where your mates are. I'd try and find my mates and say, no, I would. Like, just, it's fine. Up at SL1 doing it, cupping my ears and all sorts, I would.
Yeah, no, I'd be the same. Like I say, your allegiance is your allegiance is with the team you play for at that point, right? And I'd do exactly the same. I know where friends and family is sitting and whatever, and you should be on the wind up. Like, I just don't understand. Like, I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't do the big old hands up. Like, oh, I've been a Wolves fan all my life. Sorry, I've scored. You can't do that. Like, no, you go mad. It's like yeah, it's like Sam Morsey when he did like the Lee Hughes celebration for the Albion fans when
Yeah,
he scored for, was it Wigan? He scored for.
yeah,
I'd
yeah.
be on that sort of level. I'd go crazy. Even that David Davis when he was at Blues when he scored in front of the South Bank, just giving it the big goal. Yeah, I think you would just go
Yeah.
mad. I think you just would. I
Yeah.
think it's just one of those things. You got it. Yeah, I think I would. Sadly, but that makes
With
me
David Davis, he got
massive. But I
booed,
would.
and that hypes it up a little
Oh
bit
God,
more. Like if you're playing, say you play for Forest on Saturday, obviously with more Gibbs, it's a bit different. But you play for Forest on Saturday, probably 95% of the Wolves uh, fans probably wouldn't even realise you were a Wolves fan, really. So yeah,
no.
it's just one of those. So yeah, no, it would be interesting anyway. Um, Do you think this is a good one from Dave Bodison? Do you think the dynamic pricing used by Oasis has got Jeff Shee drooling at the mouth and itching to bring it into Wolves next season? So, for context, obviously it's been a massive thing for everyone in the UK trying to get Oasis tickets. I don't know if you tried, Jord. I don't really want to
I
go.
just
I'm not
left
that
it.
bothered. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I left
tried
it.
for family members, but I didn't get them. But Ticketmaster, who actually do control Wolves ticketing as well, had all of a sudden changed the price, despite them saying it's not going to go up in price. Like if anyone's selling above face value, your tickets are getting cancelled. Ticketmaster added an in-demand price, so tickets were being sold for like twice its value, maybe like 350 quid. I
Yeah.
think this has got Well, I say this, George. I think Jeff Shee would love this. But ultimately, I don't think there's many tickets are going to be in demand, especially home tickets this season. I mean, the Chelsea game struggled to sell out, didn't it?
Yeah, just well, the pricing's crap to start off with. I was going to say because I wasn't at the Chelsea game. Did we sell out, or did we say we sold out?
I don't know what the attendance was. It was a decent crowd though. I'm sure there would
Yeah,
have been some seats missing though. I think there was over 500 people whose season tickets weren't working to get in as well. So at the ticket office there was a mad queue. A lot of people missed the first sort of 20-25 minutes of the game.
yeah. Well, mate, that's all the debacle in itself as well. I've heard horror stories of the direct debit stuff as well. But anyway, digressing. Yeah, no, he would be licking his lips with it, but the demand isn't there, and I don't think the demand will be there for a while. I think I was going to mention that Newcastle game. It's on Sky Sports, 4:30, on a Sunday. I don't think that sells out.
No.
I reckon Newcastle must be Cat A now, or very close to Cat A in terms of pricing. I'd have to check that out and validate that, but I don't think you're going. I mean, yeah, being
Who's
on
paying
TV and stuff,
if it's
you're not
Cat A,
paying
no
55,
one.
60, 70 odd
70
quid
quid,
on
yeah.
Cat A.
Yeah.
You're not paying it, are you? In my opinion, well, I wouldn't pay it anyway. I just watch it on the telly. So yeah, it'd be interesting. I just think, yeah, the demand's not there. But Oasis, well, the supply, well, everyone's been asking for them to get back together for like fucking 15 years, haven't they? So supply and
Yeah.
demand. If Jeff Shee could do it, he'd be all over it though, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It'd be this ticket price. I saw something about our attendances. Like they've been at a certain level ever since we've come up. I don't want to say we've had minimum 30,000 because that might not be right. Because I'm sure it might have dropped into 29k for one or two of the games, but certainly it's since we've come back into the Premier League, the attendances have been very, very solid. But this
Yeah.
could be the first year, especially with pricing, quality of football and results. It might start to slow down a little bit, but who knows? We'll see. A lot of questions, George, about Tommy Doyle as well. Where does Gaz Roberts, where does Tommy Doyle fit in with the signing of Andre? Joe, if we're going for it to use a free midfield, should Tommy Doyle be starting? Like you've already mentioned, it does offer something a little bit different. But I know Andre, with Tommy Doyle, especially in pre-season, Gary O'Neill used him where he would come deep to collect the ball and start the move that way. He conducted the play quite well against Burnley, pinging the balls around as well. But I know Andre does a similar job, Jord. He sort of comes
Yeah.
deep with the ball and then starts to move that way. It's difficult. I think that, like I said earlier, I think it's a difficult situation for Gary O'Neill because, look, it's a nice headache to have when you've got so much quality, but ultimately, I don't know. There's a lot of good players. You're going to be letting one or two of them down.
Yeah, but that's the thing of having a good squad, isn't it? You've got good players there, and I'm a massive fan of Tommy Doyle. I really am. But they brought Andre in for a reason. It's Tommy Doyle's probably competing with Andre for the base of that 4-3-3, isn't he? That's really probably where you're seeing it. And I think the next few games, most definitely, you'll see a midfield three of um, Andre, Lamina, Gomez, and I think you'll end up playing Cunha out wide somewhere to accommodate that. Yeah, so that's what I think will happen. But it's good. It's a nice problem to have that we've actually got depth for once, and we've got quality players in there. It's just about keeping them happy, all happy, balanced, giving them enough game time. Because it'd be a shame for me to lose someone like Tommy Dawes. I think he's got a massive future. I really like him.
Yeah, quality player, very good technically. Jakers, Ballbird Boy, says, do you think that your channel, Talkie Walls, should be more proactive in fostering a Fosun out attitude within the fan base? What they're doing at the moment doesn't look far off asset stripping. If the fans were to protest their complete lack of ambition, things might actually change. I don't know. I don't know what to say about this, George, because obviously we've voiced our opinion on this. I don't think, I think we'd be absolutely stupid to nurture the, to really push a Fosun out agenda. Certainly we could have conversations with how we're disappointed about it and so on, but I think it's far too early to, I'm sure we're all disappointed with how certain things have gone, i.e. season ticket prices and so on, but I think it's far too early to be doing that sort of thing, especially in the season where the team obviously needs our support.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think negativity spreading around the ground and will naturally happen then. Negativity will spread on the pitch and it sort of can have a bit of a downward spiral. I think, I can only speak for myself really. Like, I'm always someone who's very open and upfront about I like to think I don't sit on the fence a lot of the times and I speak my mind and stuff. And Fosun have got a lot wrong and there's a lot that I'll criticise Fosun for, 100%. But I also feel like, the situation we're in and sort of the privilege we've got to be able to talk on the platform that has built up over many years is you've also got to offer that balance. You can't just come in saying, "Oh, they're fucking shit, they're wankers, they're ripping us off," blah 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 blah. I think you've always got to add context to it, and there's a lot that I'm not happy with Fosun for, and I feel they should be doing a lot better. 100%, loads of aspects with in and around the squad, the ground, the stadium itself. Again, Wolves women, something that's come up recently on Twitter after they lost 6-1 yesterday to Forest. I think they could be doing a lot better. However, I don't think it'd be right for us to just sit on here and bash them as well because they've done good stuff for us as well. I do think on the whole we offer a lot of balance to there as well, but I think as a channel, and probably more so for you to talk than myself, is we don't want to become affiliated with the football club in any way because I feel like that could dilute what we're offering. We want to be unofficial. We want to offer balance. We want to be a fans first channel. And I think, we definitely aren't in the club's pocket in any way, shape or form, nor would we want that. And I don't think the club would want that either. And you'll be closer to that than me. But yeah, I feel like we've always been very fair on this channel.
I think 100%. I think if there's a reason to start that, we would do that, and hence in the summer when the season ticket prices went up, we did a joint statement alongside. We did our own statement, and then we did get my words out, the petition with all the other fan groups as well. And look, I'm not going to say like we completely froze out the idea of Fosun moving on or Jeff Shee moving on because that was discussed as well. But ultimately, I still think if we went into the summer and Kilman and Neto had gone and that was it, nothing else, then I think there's discussion to be had. But they have still spent or committed a lot of money towards the playing squad. Obviously, centre-back is a big issue, but I personally, and I don't know about you, Jord, I personally still think there's a lot of quality there in the centre-back area. Look, I don't think there's quality there for Wolves to continue pushing up the table, which is obviously what we want every season. But I still think there's certainly Premier League quality in that defensive thing. So, look, I'm not going to sit here and say Fosun are the best owners because they're definitely not. But ultimately, we could have much worse owners at the moment. So it's definitely something to keep our eye on. But I think it's still too early to be throwing Fosun out, and especially too early for us to be pushing some sort of agenda on the channel as well. But there we have it. Jord, it's been a brilliant podcast once again. Thank you for jumping on alongside me. Hopefully we'll be back to some sort of normality within the next couple of podcasts anyway. But thanks for joining me. Where can people find you if they wish?
So yeah, Jord was 7 on Twitter and Instagram.
And on the golf courses in Portugal, man. I hope you have a good time. I'm sure I'll see plenty of pictures. I'm looking forward to it. I'm at Dave as a Party on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok as well, uploading little match day TikToks if anyone's bothered. And we're at Talking Wolves everywhere on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and obviously if you're listening on YouTube, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. All our content, or pretty much all of our content now, is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all other popular podcast apps and platforms. So if you want to check that out, please feel free to do so. And until next time, guys, enjoy the international break. I'm sure we'll still have plenty of content pushing out over the next week or two. And until next time, we'll catch you very, very soon.